Welcome to Figure Feedback. My name is Jeremy, and this video is going to be an introduction and a beginner's guide to Lychee Slicer. So Lychee Slicer is primarily used for resin 3D printing. And if you are just getting into resin 3D printing or you're thinking about it and you're trying to figure out whether Lychee is going to be a good slicer for you, this video is going to help you make that decision. I'm also going to go over some very basic features when it comes to the slicing and show you what you need to do in order to get your projects up and running. So before I get started, I do want to thank Lychee for sponsoring this video and providing me access with Lychee Library, which provides a ton of different models that you can choose and print directly in Lychee Slicer without having to worry about any of the heavy lifting. And I'll get into more of that in a little bit. Now, first, let me show you where you can download Lychee Slicer. You can check the link in the description to take you to this exact page. But once you get there, you're going to see that there are 3 different versions of Lychee. You have a free version, you have a plus version for $9.99, and then there's a library version for $19.99. Now, the free version is going to give you everything that you need to bring in a file. You can hollow it if you need to. You can put supports on there if you need to, and then you can export it to your printer. It handles some of the most basic functions of the slicer, and you'll be able to get the job done. But if you want more advanced features, you're going to move over to the Plus option for $9.99, which gives you full access to multiple plates in your project. You get more options when it comes to supports, such as support paintings. You get a 3D hollowing effect as opposed to 2D. You get technical support, and you also will not receive any advertisements when you go to export your files. And then Lychee Library gives you everything that the Plus version does, in addition to a lot of really cool 3D models that have already been pre-supported, curated, vetted, and it is the easiest way for you to grab a model, put it in the slicer, export it, and everything will be working out for you just fine. All right, so once you do this and you install Lychee, here is what it looks like. So this is what Lychee Slicer looks like once you get it open. And if this is your first time using it, before you start dropping models in and trying to slice it, the first things you should do is add your printer. So you go up here to 3D printer, you click it, and then you'll see that I have 3 printers up here already loaded in, but here's how you can add a new one. And you want to add a new one because you want Lychee to be able to know what's the dimensions of your build plate so that you'll be able to accurately fit your models on to that build plate inside Lychee Slicer. And so you won't have any problems when you're sending it to your printer. And also it'll enable Wi-Fi access if your printer supports Wi-Fi so that you can send your files to your printer from Lychee wirelessly. So here's what you do. So you go to this add button here. You can choose resin 3D printer. It also does filament printers, but we're going to concentrate on resin for now. And you see that there's this huge list of resin 3D printer manufacturers that you can choose from. Odds are your printer is going to be on this list. But just for an example, let's say I have a frozen printer. And here are all of the frozen printer profiles that are currently available inside of Lychee. So if I wanted to put, for example, a Sonic Mighty 8K, I would just simply click on it. And then it appears right there in my list of printers that I have set up in Lychee. And you can click the cog icon if you want, and it's going to tell you what the volume is for your particular printer. And if you have your printer connected to the internet, you will be able to use this to configure your Wi-Fi. That's what this Discover button here is for. So if you connect your printer to your home network and then the computer that you're using Lychee on is connected to that exact same network, you can hit this Discover button here, and then it will search your network, it will find your printer, and it will show up here, and then you'll be able to link it. I don't actually have this printer. I'm just using it as an example. That's why it says no printer found on the network, but that is how you will set it up. If you don't want to have this printer in your profile anymore, you can just delete it. Just click delete this printer, click OK, and it goes away. And one printer that I do have is the Sonic Mighty Revo 4K. And when I go here, you can see that I do have it connected to the Wi-Fi. I've already set it up for the Wi-Fi. It's not currently on, but it is connected, and I was able to do that from here. And then you can also click modify, and then you can unlink it if you want to unlink it from here. Now, once you've done that, you can also choose to add a resin because Lychee has a collection of resin profiles for a bunch of different resins. So you go down here to add new resin. And then you can select what your printer brand is. I'm just going to keep it right here for Frozen and the Sonic Mighty Revo. And then you can choose a resin brand. And again, chances are the resin that you're using is going to be listed here somewhere. So if I were to use, say, a Frozen resin, I can just click on that. And then I can choose which type of resin that I'm using. So let's say it's just the Aqua AK in the color gray. And then here are the printing profiles that are available with the different micron settings as well. So this is for 50 microns. This is for 20, 20, 50, 20, 50. And then the pages can go on and on and on. You can select whatever profile that you want to use. For example, this one, and then you can just click on add one selected profile. And when you do that and you leave out of this particular menu, you'll find the resin that you chose is going to be right down here under the brand list. So I can pick Sonic Mighty Revo with a Frozen resin. I chose RPG Gray previously, and this is the official profile for it. And this is going to get you up and running. It's going to get you in the ballpark for what settings your resin should be at in order for you to have successful prints. You can edit the profile if you find that you need to right here in this page, but it's good to just use this as a starting point if you're not too sure what you should do. And then if you need to adjust it later, you can easily come back here and do it. So those are the first two things that you should do when setting things up. Now let's throw some files onto this plate. So I've got this little Wolverine model here with his head and his body as well as a base to put him on. And I'm going to go over what these options here on the left side of the menu do. Now, the first thing that I want to show you, you see how when I click on this, all of them are selected at once and they all move at once. That's not something that Lychee does by default, but that's something special within this particular file, which means no matter what I choose to do, it's going to do it for all three of these. But what if I don't want it to be that way? Well, what you can do is you can select them and then you can go over to the left side, move down to this tools option here. And you see we have these two options. We've got planar cut and we have split. Planar cut is when you want to just cut right through the model. Let's say the model's too big for your build plate and you want to cut it so that you can print the pieces separately and then glue them together afterwards. That's what the planar cut is for. But in this case, I'm just going to go to split and click on part splitting. And it told me that it's going to result in 3 parts. So now each part can be moved individually instead of being all together. So that's just a little tip just in case you run into that particular issue. But now let's just start at the very top. Arrange. Lychee will automatically arrange your models for you in a couple different ways. You see here is for shape. So I'm just going to select all of these. I'm going to put it on shape and I'm going to click arrange all. And this is the orientation that it's going to be in when I do shape. I can also choose rectangle and use range all on that. And it just spreads them apart from left to right, kind of like a rectangle. So that's one way that Lychee can do it for you automatically. But of course, you can just grab each model by itself and move it around however you want in this 3-dimensional space, depending on what you want it to do. Now we can move down here to this move section here. And we have arrange all, which is kind of what we just did. And we also have this lift up function. Lift up literally means that once you click it, you'll be able to lift the model up into the air. Because maybe, let's say, for example, you wanted to see what this would look like when his head is actually attached to the model. So we can just move it kind of like this, move this over, and you can kind of get a sense of what it would be like once you put the model on the body, put the head on the body. So that can be pretty useful as well. And when you don't want it to be floating in the air anymore, you can just click on plate, and it'll drop it right back down to the plate. And original is just going to put the model back in whatever original position that it was in, and then center is just going to put it in the center. All right, so let's just drop this right back onto the plate, and let's move over to the next option, which is rotate, which is literally that. You can just rotate the models 360 degrees on different axes. So you can move it this way, you can click on one of these other color wheels, and you can move it up kind of like this. You can also tilt it if you need to, just like that, whatever you need to do. And typically with resin 3D printing, you want your models to have a bit of a tilt to them, and that's going to help it so that the model does not rip itself apart as a result of suction forces as it's laying flat on the plate. You don't want it to lay flat on the plate in many cases, so you want to give it a little bit of an angle there. All right. Here, this option here is orientation to object. So that means that you can select one point on this model, and then you can select another point on a model, and it's just going to turn them to face that second point. So if you have use for that, you can do that. And then auto orientation just gives Lychee the permission to just arrange it in whatever way that it thinks is best. All right. And then you can reset it if you want. Scale is making your models bigger or smaller. I like to use the percentages because it's just a nice, even or odd number that you can choose, and you don't have to worry about like decimals and stuff like that. So if I wanted this head to only be 75% scale, and I wanted the entire model on the X, the Y, and the Z to scale appropriately, make sure that uniform scaling is on, press enter, and it just automatically shrinks it down to 75%. But if I want it to be full size, bring it back up to 100%. So that's what the scaling does. Copy is when you want to make duplicates of a model. So if I wanted to make a duplicate of this head, I'll make one copy. I'll just click duplicate selection, and then bam, there's the duplicate right there. You want to get rid of it, you just click it and then hit the delete button on the keyboard and it goes away. Mirror will basically give the model a mirroring effect. So check out the body here. You see how you have the left leg that's just up, and then the right leg is back. But if I mirror it, it basically just switches position. So it's like you're holding it up to a mirror. So that's what the mirror function does. And then in tools, we went over what the split does. But real quick, let me show you the planar cut. So it tells you that some information is going to be lost. It could be lost when you do this, but basically you look at this giant transparent square, and wherever this square kind of meets in the middle is where that cut is going to be. You can arrange this just like you would when you're trying to rotate a model so that you can get exactly the cut that you want. So let's just say I wanted to cut his body like in half, just like this. I would make it like that, and then I would hit apply, and then Lychee's going to split it apart just like that. And then I can take these two pieces. Let me go back up to move. I can take these two pieces and just move them apart, split them apart just like that. All right. I don't want him to be split apart, so I'm just going to undo this. I can just do Control Z on my keyboard, and now he is just one solid piece again. And then last but not least on this side is going to be measure. And this is for getting some measurements for your model. So if you wanted to know how wide this base is, so what I can do is I can make one little point, let's say right there, and I can move another little point to say about like right here. And it will tell me that the distance between the first point and the second point is 72 millimeters or 2.84 inches. So that's something else that you can do. Now the batch setting here, The batch setting is when you want Lychee to perform a series of tasks automatically. So what you would do is you would choose a model that you already have on your computer. And then you would choose the output folder that you want everything to go to. And then you can just choose all of these options here, as many as you want. And then you will run batch and it'll perform all of those actions and put them into that folder. So that'll help save you some time if you're going to be doing the same thing over and over. And you just want Lychee to just do everything for you instead of you doing it manually. All right, so that's the basic features of the layout. But let's say I wanted to print these, all right? So let me just go and arrange these in a way that is going to be good for printing. So I'm just going to kind of move these apart from each other, kind of like that. And like I said, you want everything to be sort of rotated at about a 45-degree angle when you print it. So we can move the base up here like that of 45 degrees. And then as for his body, let's just tilt his body back to be just like this as well. In fact, I think I can just rotate it like this. Everything is facing the same direction, kind of like this. It all fits on the plate, but if it's not going to fit on the plate and you move it, you can see how that black is starting to come in. That means that you are out of bounds. So you want to make sure that you are within bounds. So now I got everything kind of lifted up just like this. And this base is hovering. So remember what we did when we went over to move and then we do on plate. We can just do that, move that back down. All right. And everything else is on the plate. Now we can move over to the prepare tab. Now in the prepare tab is where you can do things like make your supports as well as you can hollow print as well. You see on the right side, when I grab this little bar here, this is showing me what is going to look like as I print layer by layer. And the solid white means that the model is completely solid through and through. But sometimes in resin 3D printing, you don't want things to be completely solid because it takes more resin. So if I click on this that says estimated resin volume on this particular plate, you see that it says 154 milliliters of resin, which honestly is not that much. But what if you wanted to use less resin? That's where you would hollow. So I'm just going to hollow this particular base here. All right, so you give this a click. Over here on the left side, you see hollow. Up here, you have hollowing 3D and hollowing 2D. Hollowing 2D is what the free version of Lychee has, and then the premium versions have hollowing 3D. But once you go to hollowing 2D and you click on, you can see as I drag this down, you see the black that you're seeing now instead of white. Well, that means that what you see in black is now hollow on the inside of the model. In 3D hollowing, I can click on the base here, and then I can just click on add/update. And this base here, you see how it's hollow on the inside? You can kind of see it like right there. You see how that's hollow? The other parts are not hollow. These are still solid, but you can see that this is now hollow on the inside. But that's not the end of it, because in addition to hollowing it, you need to add some drain holes, because if you don't add those drain holes, there's going to be resin trapped in there, and resin will find its way out eventually by cracking the model open and spilling all over the place. And you don't want that. So we need to make some holes. Here's a holes option right here. So we can click on holes. You can choose the geometry, the shape of the hole. And then you can also change the diameter and the penetration that you're going to be making. So I am going to put just a few holes here on this base. So here's one hole, and then I can do 2 holes, and then I can do 3 holes. And then once you do that, you see this options down here that says hole only, that says only apply the hole to the object, but don't create the cap. The cap is basically the part that you're cutting out. You have cap only, which you will create the cap and keep the hole dynamic. And then you can do both, where you can create the cap and apply the hole in the object. So I'm just going to say hole only and give that a click. And you see it has cut through this. And go over to this next one here, hole only, this one here, hole only. And you see I have cut through this here. So now as I drag this down, you can see the holes that are inside of it. All right, so once we are done with that, we can move over to support. Now here's the support right over here. Now I consider supports to be somewhat of an art style because there's people who can pre-support their own models and they can make it so that you use the fewest amount of supports, the lightest supports. They're super easy to remove. They leave behind minimal scarring, but it's something that you have to learn and practice in order to get good at. And while having a pre-supported model by someone who knows what they're doing, I think is always the best option if you can get a model like that. But if you can't, there's nothing wrong with automatic supports. Out of the hundreds of models that I have printed, most of the time I've generated the supports automatically, and I have had minimal problems with it. So don't be afraid of auto supports because they will get the job done. And Lychee makes it easy. So I can just highlight all of these here, and I can go down to generate automatic supports. Or there's this little magic button here that you can click. If you want to have like a automatic one-click way to do your orientation and your supports and stuff like that, that's what the magic button is for. And it says, I'm feeling lucky. You can let Lychee do everything for you. But over here, I'm just going to say generate automatic supports. I'm not going to mess with anything. I'm not going to touch anything. Just generate the automatic supports. And we can see what Lychee comes up with. All right, so now that this is done, I'll just click OK. And here are the supports that Lychee generated here. All right, so from here, we can go over to export. Oh, would you look at that? It says two supports are too close or colliding with one or more objects. Now, this is something that you might see from time to time when you generate the automatic supports, but here is how you can get around that. So we're going to go back to the Prepare tab, and then we're going to go up to View here. And then we're going to go down to support visibility. And I'm going to click on show only supports in proximity error. So we click on that and we look for those supports. Here's one here that I can click on that's in red. And then I can just go, boom, delete it. But now we need to find the other support. Where could it be? And there it is. It is right here on Wolverine's back. You see that? See that red there? So I can just click on that, hit delete. And now once we go back to export, the error is gone. All right. And we still have a nicely supported model. We just had to get rid of those two parts there. All right, and so now it's time to slice. You make sure that you have the printer that you want selected, the resin that you need selected. The destination is going to be your computer. And then the slicing format, it depends on the printer that you're using. Since this is a frozen printer, it's going to be .prz and everything's going to be on plate 1. And then you can click export slices to file, choose where you want it to go on your computer or your USB stick, and then you can slice it from there, and then you're good to go. We can put that in your printer and go on about your business. So that is how you can set up some objects in Lychee Slicer and slice them and get them onto your printer. But before I go, I do want to show you also the Lychee library. So first, let me just erase Wolverine here and just go over to the Lychee library. And this just gives you a bunch of different files that you can choose from that you can print. Miniatures and tabletop stuff, games and toys, gadgets, figurines, fashion and cosplay, all of that good stuff. And the good thing about this is these have already been curated and vetted, and they have already been supported as well. So you can just select, if there's multiple versions, you just choose whichever one that you want. I'm just going to choose this one, and I'm going to put import select model. And it's going to throw everything on there for me. And if this particular model is so large, it goes beyond the plate. But you can see here the two parts that it comes in. And by the way, when you want to add another plate to your project, see this little plus icon right here for add plate, you can just click on it and it's going to make another plate. And there's the other plate right over here. So I can do that. And then if you really want to start, you can't really alter these particular models, but when you're ready to print them, you can just go ahead and click on that little library icon there. It's going to give you a high definition version of the particular model. And as soon as this gets finished rebuilding, you will see that everything has already been done for you. So all that hollowing that we did and generating the supports and all that stuff, this is already done. This is already done. So it already has been hollowed. The supports have already been put on here. And then we can just move over to this. This is like a half Joker, half Batman bust. And you see how those supports are on there. See that's some good supporting right there. That is some good supporting. And then if you try to go over to the Prepare tab, you get this warning that says that you are editing a locked object and you won't be able to support it because the 3D models creator has decided to lock the object. Like I said, it's already been done for you, so you don't need to worry about it. And you see that this one has also been hollowed. You see those holes at the very bottom of it, so that is good. And then once you're done with this, you can just go over to export and just export it like you normally would. And in this case, it will take 8 hours and 2 minutes on this particular printer to print this out. So that is how you can get a model from Lychee Library and easily put it on your plate and export it to your particular printer. And it's just a lot of different models that you can choose from. I mean, check them out. It's really good stuff here. So this comes in that $19.99 tier of Lychee. So if you just want an easy way to get yourself some models without having to search around the internet for them, this is what you would do to get them. So I hope you found this tutorial useful, and as a thank you for making it this far, I got a couple treats for you. So the first one is going to be 1 month's free access to Lychee Library, and all you have to do is use the promo code TRYLYCHEE, and that's going to unlock that tier for you for 1 month. And the second surprise I got for you is a contest whereby the winner will receive 3 months access to Lychee Library courtesy of Lychee. And to do that is very easy. If you check my link down in the description, it's going to take you to a Google form where I ask you 2 questions. The first one is going to be your preferred name, and the second question is going to be the email address that's associated with your Lychee account. All right, so I'm going to take the entries from that. I'm going to pick them randomly, and I'm going to email the winner. And at that point, I'll give that email address to Lychee, and they will hook you up with 3 months free access to Lychee Library. I'm going to let this contest run for a couple weeks, so it is going to end on October 17th. All right, so if you want to throw your hat in the ring and get yourself 3 months access to Lychee Library, make sure you click that link in the description. So that's all for now. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, take care of yourselves, and I'll speak to you soon.